Welcome everyone to the regular town council meeting, Town of Cave Creek, Arizona, Monday, June 6th. Roll, please.
Councilmember McGuire.
Present.
Councilmember Monachino.
Here.
Councilmember Morris.
Present.
Councilmember Royer. Here. Councilmember Silva.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
Mayor Bunch.
Here. Let's see here. Oh, crud. I'm terrible with names. Was it Spawn? Spohn, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? The gentleman from APS who keeps this room cool.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public announcements. Once again, please be aware of the fire danger. Don't burn our town down. Be safe. Call the public.
David Phelps.
Need a little red light on there. There you go.
Hi there, Mayor and
Oh,
Town.
that's funny, David.
Hi there, Mayor and Town Council. David Phelps here, Cave Creek resident. Housekeeping update on our water rate study that we've been working on since the 1870s. For an update, I know that we got a early timeline and that we were going to pass something in May, I thought, that would take effect in August, but obviously it's not going to happen in May. But I was wondering if we're not going to open debate and discuss it before we vote on it, if we could at least make it a public document, the study itself, so that those of us who are still paying for water can look at the analysis that's been done and form our own opinions. Thank you.
There are no others.
No more? Town manager.
I have a couple. Can you hear me? On this one, this isn't
sort of.
working very well. Test. Can you hear better?
Oh, yeah.
Stereo.
Good thing Bill isn't here.
It's gonna be in stereo.
Two bad Bills out here. We wouldn't hear him. I have two great things to announce. Spur Cross Road widening out by Spur Cross Ranch has begun today. That's at the location where the road narrows and there's a curve and it's dangerous. So finally, they are out there working on that project. So that'll be going on all week. So that is good news. And the second thing that is really good news is next week, we are going to pick up the brush truck, and that will be back in Cave Creek on June 14th. And we will have that out on display for anyone to come and look at the next council meeting on June 20th. So that's really good, exciting news. And it'd be great to have that additional resource here during the fire season. So I have all good news tonight. Thanks.
Are you done? Okay. Action item, consent agenda.
Mayor,
Yeah.
may I have a question?
Sure.
Town manager. Carrie, would you give council an update on the landmarks project? Where are we and how we doing and who's the next landmark?
Luke Kautzman would be able to give you the exact information.
Sure. Mayor, members of council, member Monachino. That's council member Monachino. All right. The local landmarks program kicked off with a presentation of the award to American Legion Post 34 back in May, I believe May 21st on a Saturday for their Korean veterans festivity. We will be ordering plaques for both the Legion Post as well as the Cave Creek Museum this week. And we'll be arranging actual dedication ceremonies of those plaques when they do arrive. In the meantime, we've been working with trying to contact each other landmark location. So that consists of Lasan Souci, Frontier Town, Buffalo Chip, the library, the museum, I just got
Frontier
myself
Town.
in trouble trying to be
Indian Village,
Indian
Sans
Village.
Souci.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once contact has been made with all of those recipients and we began putting together narratives and images for both the plaque and for the interactive map, we'll be rolling those out very soon.
It's my understanding that the businesses now have packets to fill out, complete, and
Yeah, Reg, this isn't really agendized, so we can't continue on. And Mr. Sims will be jumping down our throats here for real quick. Like if he was sitting there, he'd be going,
I'd be happy to contact Councilmember Monachino tomorrow to discuss exactly what the status is.
Now moving right along. Consent agenda approval of the May 2nd, 2022 regular council meeting minutes and cancellation of July 5th, 2022, August 1st, 2022, and September 6th, 2022 regular town council meetings. Council action needed. We motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Got a second?
Tom did.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes clearly have it.
Mayor.
Yeah.
Consent agenda item number 1, I'll abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, all righty. We got, okay, so we're six in favor and 1 abstention.
Consent agenda item number 2.
Mhm.
Okay, the cancellation of these 3 meetings is going to limit the damage that I can do on council. I vote aye.
Reg, that may be just by design.
The thought crossed my mind.
Trying to enhance your retirement.
All right. General agenda item number 1, presentation by stakeholder partners, Maricopa County Parks and Recreation, Desert Foothills Land Trust regarding updates on parks and open space. Looking forward to this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I have the privilege to introduce RJ Carden, who is the Director of Maricopa County Parks, as well as Vicki Preston, who is the President and CEO of the Desert Foothills Land Trust. Both of these agencies work very closely with the town and community at large regarding preservation and management of open space, which is something very critical and has been a directive in every general plan that's been enacted by residents of Cave Creek. Just a brief introduction for Maricopa County. RJ helps oversee the operation of 120,000 acres of open space, parks, trails, campgrounds, and nature centers, including through a master contract with the town management of the Spur Cross Ranch Conservation Area, Cave Creek Regional Park, and a portion of the Black Mountain Preserve. Desert Foothills Land Trust has been an organization since 1991 who has worked to conserve the most sensitive and important open spaces in the communities of Anthem, Carefree, Cave Creek, Desert Hills, New River, North Phoenix, and North Scottsdale. So they're beyond stakeholders. We really leverage their information, insight, and abilities to get a lot of important projects done in the town and the community in general. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Carden.
Mayor, members of council, hopefully you can hear me. Very nice to be with you. It's been a few years since I've been here, so it's great to be back with all of you. I would just like to give you an update. I have a bunch of slides, so I'll go through those really quickly because I figure pictures are better than hearing me talk. So I'll try to go through those, but I know there's probably more things than what I'm going to have presented because we've had so much going on at Spur Cross and Cave Creek Park as well. So I'll just try and run through these, and please at the end ask me any questions you want to ask. As Luke said, we're at about 120,000 acres. One of the largest park systems in the country, actually. And in the past 5 years, we have added the Haciampa River Preserve and Vulture Mountain recreation area. And we've just started construction on Vulture Mountain this past month. So we're excited about that. Next. And here you can see just where the parks, 13 parks located around the county. I would say Cave Creek is fairly well blessed because you have 2 of the 13 county parks within your jurisdiction, and that's more than any other city has. So I feel a kinship with the town of Cave Creek, and I live in Cave Creek as well. And then there also up there, you'll see the Maricopa Trail and the Sun Circle Trail and all the trailheads as well. I'm sorry, go ahead, you're fine. Next, Cave Creek Regional Park is within Cave Creek, 2,922 acres. Ranges in elevation from 2,000 feet up to 3,000 feet. And the Go John Trail is kind of the signature trail of that park, along with the campground. A lot of folks visit that campground in the wintertime and then spend time in Cave Creek. Next. And there you can see the particulars on Cave Creek Park. 1963 was when it was founded. We have about 15 miles of trails in there. The Nature Center, horseback riding, that's a great operation. The Maricopa Trail comes in and out of Cave Creek Park. And then, as I mentioned, the campground. As you would guess, the most popular activity there is trail hiking. Next. And I mentioned the Haciampa River Preserve, and I just wanted to throw this in there because this is another park for us that is so much like Spur Cross Ranch Conservation Area, and we feel so lucky to have acquired this property. This was a partnership with the Nature Conservancy. The Nature Conservancy donated the property to Maricopa County, and in return, we put a conservation easement on it, and they help us manage that. So a little bit different twist from the way we manage Spur Cross, but it's a wonderful partnership. Next. And then Spur Cross, as I know you all are aware, January 9th of 2001, Governor Hall, Jan Brewer, and Mayor Francia all signed an agreement to acquire Spur Cross. So it's been 20 years or a little over 20 years now that that 2,100 acres of conservation area was acquired. And it's not only a conservation area, there are wonderful archaeological sites in there, as well as mining history and ranching history within that property as well. And then it's one of the most floristically diverse parks that we have in the Maricopa County Park System. Next. And again, you can see the basic information here. 2001, it goes up to almost 4,000 feet on Elephant Mountain, which most people are surprised at. And then more than 12 miles of trails, as well as the connection to the Maricopa Trail going up to the Bronco Trailhead in the Tonto National Forest and going back west to Cave Creek Regional Park. Next. And just to show you a little bit about what the park looks like. Next, please. And one of the projects I mentioned, I wanted to give you an overview of some of the projects we've been working on in the park. And this one really is a project that the town of Cave Creek undertook. And this is the parking project. Next. As you recall, during COVID, the Spur Cross Ranch was fairly popular. And so people were parked alongside the road just trying to get there, as well as the Desert Foothills Land Trust property. Next. And here's a wonderful picture of how people really park well when you don't give them much direction. Next, please. And so here's the work that the town of Cave Creek and Larson Excavating did to take out that big pile of rubble that was out there. Next. And you can see here the blue square up there was the parking area. And then that red circle was the area that was completely flattened. And if you go to the next one, you can see here we've gone basically from around 60 parking spaces to now 180-ish parking spaces, plus a whole row of parking for horse trailers, RVs, things like that. So it's made a world of difference. And then we also built a trail to the Jewel of the Creek as well. Next. One of the things that we're really excited about this past year is we were able to receive some of the Recovery Act funding. And we have put that, we couched it as a job training program. And it really is a job training program because we hire the American Conservation Corps to come out and do trail work within the parks. And in the spring of 2020, there were 5 80-hour hitches. So 400 crew hours were put into Spur Cross Ranch Conservation Area. And that totaled $64,000 worth of work that was done there. And you can just go through these next slides relatively quickly. It's just the work that we did out there with these youth. So Dragonfly Trail, Tortuga Trail, Spur Cross Trail got work, Elephant Mountain Trail, which really needed some work got done. And then Ranger Kevin wanted me to be sure to mention the Spur Cross Trail volunteers as well, because they do a lot of work out there. And I was hoping that Kevin would be here because he could name all those people that he works with. But they're in the left, they're actually working on the trails in Spur Cross, but they're also helping on the right with closing off some mine sites in Cave Creek Regional Park. Next. Another program that we're really proud of, we started a natural resources program 3 years ago with county parks, and I hired a young lady out of a forest preserve in Illinois. She and her husband came down. He works with the Tonto National Forest, and she's done some really wonderful things in terms of natural resource conservation, natural resource preservation. One of the things that she has been working on with a host of others is the Desert Defenders program. And that's 2 phases, really. Part of it is a citizen science program, and they're there to help identify, map, and remove high priority invasive species. And then the program trains volunteers on identifying these, but then we've also developed a map, a GIS map using Esri, where these volunteers can go out there and start to map all the invasive species, whether that be in Cave Creek Regional Park, Spur Cross, White Tank Mountain Regional Park, and that all goes into one giant database. So we're able to now start to really get a handle on what kinds of invasive species are in different parts of the county and how we can take care of those. And that's really what that part of the program is about, is really identifying those so then we can have future dates. Next slide. Oh, I wanted to mention all the partners that are in this as well. The Central Arizona Conservation Alliance is one of the lead partners in this. They're out of the Desert Botanical Gardens. Then we are a part of this, as is Desert Foothills Land Trust. I don't think they're up there, but they are definitely a part of this. McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy, White Tank Mountain Conservancy, and a host of others. Now you can go to the next one, please. Thank you. So the other part of the Desert Defenders is once they've mapped all of these invasive species, we put together volunteer crews to go out and pull the invasive species. And so you can see up there several events that we've had in Spur Cross. They've pulled over 20,000 invasive species from that park, and they've treated 11,000 or 11 and a half acres. I wish it was 11,000, 11 and a half acres. As well as we just received last year a grant from the Department of Forestry and Fire Management, about an $80,000 grant. And that was all for Spur Cross. And it took us about a year to find the right contractor to go out there, because we wanted somebody that knew what they were doing from an environmentally sensitive standpoint. And we lucked out. I think we found a group from the National Park Service that actually does invasive species treatment. And so we hired them, and they came out and they treated approximately 35,000 invasive plants in Spur Cross. They treated 40,000 acres along Spur Cross Trail and the Metate Trail, as well as the Cave Creek Riparian Buffer and the Boca Grande Wash Corridor. And then in Cave Creek Park, again, going back to staff and volunteers, 36,000 plants were treated within 8 acres of that park. So, and this will be an ongoing program that we'll use in Spur Cross, Cave Creek, and really throughout our park system. And the nice part about this is that it attracts local volunteers, but it also attracts volunteers from those other organizations that I mentioned, like the Desert Botanical Garden. So it's a great program. We're excited to have it. Next. Another thing we've started, Juanita, my conservation specialist, has started, is a native seed harvesting program. You all are aware of the fires that happened within Cave Creek Regional Park and then throughout the rest of this region. One of the things that we've had difficulty doing, quite honestly, is finding seed that is actually native to go back and reseed those burn areas. So we've begun a program to collect our own seed. And so we take volunteers out there and some park staff. You can see there they've collected over 40 pounds of seed this past year, and they will continue to do that. And then we can go out and reseed those burned areas. The other thing, the picture on actually the second and third picture up there are the native seed garden that we've planted at Cave Creek Regional Park. And so we not only have seeds, but we're propagating plants as well. So we can go out in some of these burn areas or other scarred areas and start to replant with propagated plants that have a little better chance of surviving over the seed. Next. And the last thing Luke asked me to talk just a little bit about, we're in the middle of our Parks Vision 2030 system master plan. And the master plan really sets up a kind of a vision for what the county needs to do over the next 10, 20, even 30 years to accommodate the growth in population and to manage from a conservation standpoint. So we've started that process. We're well underway. We hope to actually have a draft of this document out sometime later this summer. Next. And the one thing you saw on the opening slide, it says continuing the legacy. And we've looked back at master plans that were done for the county park system. And the first master plan was done in 1965. And you can see there in that first bullet, their hair was on fire because from 1960 to 1980, this county was going to grow from 660,000 people to 1.4 million. We're at what, 4 million now? But the concept was still the same. They were worried about loss of open space, loss of the Sonoran Desert heritage. And so we looked at that plan and we said, you know, there's so much in that plan that makes sense today. And so we're adopting pieces of that. And that was adopted in 1963 by the board. And then we started to acquire properties in 1965. The slide up there, or the photo up there, is an interesting one. That's actually Stuart Udall. Stuart Udall was Secretary of Interior in the early 60s, and he was one that actually helped to acquire some of these parks like Cave Creek from the Bureau of Land Management. Next slide. And again, I mentioned there are just so many things in that plan that we want to look at science. We want to look at biology as we start to add to our park system. We always want to make sure we're reflecting the needs and desires of our citizens. We want to establish standards, which we have, and we'll continue to update those, making sure we have master plans and updated master plans for all of our parks. And then look at the long range effect of this. So as this county goes from 4 million today to 7 million in 2040 or 2050, we start to prepare for it and get ahead of that. Next. And just one of the things that we've done is collected a lot of data. We've done park visitor surveys. We've done a survey of about 1,500 Maricopa County residents recently to find out what their needs and desires are. The Arizona State University Morrison Institute has done some studies. And just to let you know, that's the first box up there is just one that tells it for me. It's 98% of Arizona residents say parks, preserves, forests, and open spaces are important to them. Higher than any other, higher than schools, higher than water, higher than most any other thing. So it's just an interesting thing that the public is in love with open space in Arizona, and why not? Next. And so our preliminary findings are that our regional parks, regional open spaces, conservation areas are important to community health and well-being. There's a need to provide greater leadership in conservation and restoration on a regional basis. We need to continue to reinvest in our parks like Spur Cross Ranch and Cave Creek Park, along with the others. And then we really need to develop a 20-year plan to start acquiring new properties and working in partnership with the federal agencies to acquire some new properties and really work through partnership. Next. And I just thought you might be interested in kind of seeing this is 2050 if everything was perfect. The dark green are the county park sites. The light green are future county park or partnership parks. We're talking about reinvigorating the river corridors. We'd love to see those reinvigorated and have small pocket natural areas connected by trails that go through some of the lower income areas of the community and really connect those folks to nature as well. And then a second loop of the Maricopa Trail around the outside. And one more slide, please. And I thought you might be most interested in this slide. This is the northeast quadrant of the plan that we've talked about. And we're talking about, we've met with Tonto National Forest on numerous occasions, just met with a forest supervisor a couple of weeks ago. And we've talked about how can we build something in that New River area of the Tonto National Forest, connect that to Spur Cross Ranch, and then run that up to the Seven Springs and develop a Seven Springs conservation area. And then work with the Tonto National Forest at Horseshoe Lake as Bartlett Dam will be raised in the future. That's going to create some additional riparian area behind that and back towards Horseshoe Lake. We think there's some really nice opportunities back there. And then the Lower Verde River Regional Park is another great opportunity. If you haven't been out there, don't go there on the weekend. It's very crazy, but on the weekdays, it's a very beautiful spot. So that's just some of the thought. And you can see up there too, one of the things that I've identified is I would still like to continue to work on that piece of state trust land between Cave Creek Regional Park and Spur Cross Ranch Conservation Area and see how we can make a better connection between those two areas as well. And I think that's it. Next one.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go right ahead, Tom.
RJ, good to see you again. Could you tell us a little bit more about the expansion of the Bartlett Lake Dam? Why and when and other details that you know?
Tom, Councilmember McGuire, Mayor, I don't know a whole lot of the details yet. I know they have done 2 studies on Bartlett Dam. Obviously, the reason is they want to be able to retain more water from the Verde, as well as Horseshoe Lake is filling up with sediment. So it's not a storage, it doesn't have viable storage anymore. And it really doesn't even protect from flooding as it continues to fill up with sediment. So they did 2 primary studies, one to dredge out Horseshoe Lake and make that a viable retention pond again and flood control structure, or to raise the dam. And their cost benefit analysis came back that raising the Bartlett Dam was by far the cheapest thing that they could do. I think they're many years off, Tom, before they actually start talking about trying to fund that project, but I know it's a priority for the Bureau of Reclamation.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, RJ. Nice to
Hi.
see you again. And Vicky, do our congratulations in order? Do you have a new title? CEO and president?
Same stuff, same pay. No. Title, but yeah,
I thought it was executive director in the recent past.
yes,
So congrats to
all
you.
of the above.
Good. My question is there any progress or an update on the 12 parcels that the county and Cave Creek paid for appraisals? And do you have any kind of an update for us on those parcels? And do we have any hope of ever acquiring anything up there?
So I think, Councilmember Royer, that Vicky was going to talk a little bit about that. So I will
sorry.
let her.
Got ahead of it.
And yeah.
We're not here to steal Vicky's thunder.
Right.
That's okay. RJ already did one.
It's a good segue. Yes. There you go.
Well, I don't have, slides about that in my presentation. So if you want me to cover that at the end, or if you want me to go into it right now.
Might as well speak to it right now.
Speak to it right now. So thank you again, Mayor and Council. Sorry I could not be there. Like Councilmember McGuire had mentioned, he failed his test. I haven't failed mine yet, but COVID finally made its way into our office, which is why I'm joining virtually. So thank you for having me tonight, and sorry I couldn't be there with you all in person because I really kind of missed that. So as Councilmember Roy said, there's been a partnership between the town, the county, and the land trust to do appraisals on several properties that are either adjacent to or sort of within Spur Cross Ranch Conservation Area. And we've done those. We have had some of them successfully acquired for conservation purposes by a conservation buyer. So that was really critical. They will be doing a conservation easement with the land trust in the upcoming years here on that piece, which is the Harmony Hollow piece. One of the critical pieces is directly behind the trailhead at Spur Cross. It's actually the hillside behind Kevin's trailer. And I know that many people have been concerned if they've seen the for sale sign on that one go up. So we are working very closely with that landowner. They want to work with the land trust on this. So we are doing that. We have had 2 appraisals done on that property. Unfortunately, what they want for the property and what it is appraising at are 2 different prices. We just last week spoke with the appraiser to do yet again another updated appraisal. You know, as the market is changing, things are just flying so quickly and prices are very interesting. We have some new comps that might get us closer to what the landowner wants for that property, and that is a really critical piece. As I mentioned, it is directly behind the trailhead, so that's our highest priority right now, and we're still working on it aggressively.
Thanks, Becky.
Sure. With that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I hope this works. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
That's a nice picture.
Well, thanks. I did not take that, but that is beautiful, you know, view of Spur Cross and the Jewel right there. So I know a lot of you, we've worked for so many years together. I know a lot of you know about the land trust, but for those of you that don't, I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through who we are, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So Desert Foothills Land Trust is a nonprofit organization. We are community-based. In fact, we were formed right here in Cave Creek by several concerned citizens that saw development coming our way and said, what do we do to help curtail this? How do we stop this? So we've been around for over 30 years working right here in our communities, and we are small, but we are mighty. We have 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff. And we just recently surpassed a very huge milestone at the end of 2021, literally New Year's Eve. We closed on another 55-acre property, which put us above the 1,000-acre mark, which is really, really a huge accomplishment for such a small group like ours. So our mission is to protect these beautiful lands that, help make up our beautiful Sonoran Desert. Then once we acquire them, we need to make sure that we are taking care of them, because what we do is perpetuity, meaning forever. And then we need to ensure that we are making people, affording these connections to nature that people really need. In order for us to be sustainable into the future, we need to build our next generation of stewards. So here's a map of basically kind of our service area. You have I-17 here, Carefree Highway, Cave Creek Road, and we go all the way up to the New River and down south to about Dixoletta. As you can see, we have a big cluster of our preserves are right here in the town of Carefree and Cave Creek. In Cave Creek, we have almost 400 acres permanently protected. And this really is a community-driven process. I know I'm almost reiterating a lot of what RJ had talked about, but it really is about our communities. And so we reached out to the community and said, what is it that is important to you? What do we need to be focusing our efforts on? And I ideally, they both aligned with what we were trying to do and what they felt was important. Riparian areas, Arizona's lost over 90% of our riparian areas, and they're so critical for the habitats, for the wildlife. They create wildlife corridors, and for our water. The Jewel of the Creek and Spur Cross is a perfect example of those. And also looking at things like our cultural and archaeological resources, our iconic views, and of course the habitats for the rare plants and species. So why are we so concerned and why are we working so hard to do this? RJ alluded to it before when we saw that big growth. Now they're talking that our population is expected to double by 2050, which could equate to another 2 million acres of open space that is lost forever. And so it's not about, precluding or stopping development. It's really about welcoming our new neighbors and making sure that we are doing so smart. It's all about smart growth and identifying the properties that are really critical for preservation and those that are more suited for development. And so the way that we protect our properties, we really have kind of 3 pillars. First is fee simple acquisition, which means we own the deed to the property. So that could be a landowner either donates their property to the land trust, or we purchase the property Or it could be a combination of both, where the landowner agrees to sell us the property for less than appraised value and then could take a charitable contribution for that difference. A good example of this one is the Jewel of the Creek, right adjacent to Spur Cross, or our PA Seats Preserve, which also shares trails with Cave Creek Regional Park. Most people here in town are very familiar with those preserves. Another way that we protect land is through conservation easements. These are a really unique tool that we have in our toolbox. It's our way to work with private landowners. And as you own property, you own a bundle of rights. And that could be, subdivision, development, timber harvest, the right to hunt, to fish. So you own all these rights. And what a conservation easement is, it's an agreement between the private landowner and the land trust that says, I'm going to give over some of these rights to you, the land trust. And it's really interesting because that landowner maintains ownership of that land. However, the conservation values are forever protected through this conservation easement, which is written on the deed. Now, these easements don't require any type of public access, but it's a way to work with private landowners to get property conserved forever. One of the most popular conservation easements that we have is the cave that Cave Creek is named for. And as I mentioned, conservation easements do not require public access. However, the donor of the cave piece understood how important that was for the community to understand and learn about. So they actually wrote into the conservation easement that we are allowed to provide guided access to the cave 6 times per year, 20 people each time, which I know is why everybody has such a hard time getting into those hikes. But we're really lucky that we're even allowed to share that. So it's a really unique opportunity. And thirdly, we do our conservation through community partners. I don't think that we would be able to so successfully acquire lands, fee simple or conservation easements, if it wasn't for the community, the town, the county, playing such a key role and being such key partners in everything that we're doing. So you'll see some of these pictures look a little familiar. The top left there, the COVID picture from the other angle, that was Spur Cross. RJ had mentioned this, that the work that the town has done to really help be a partner in conservation, to make visiting our open spaces safer for our community. We share we share trails with the county parks. We share preserves with the town. As I mentioned, it really wouldn't be possible without these key partnerships. And that goes for both the council, who at times have been so quick to call a meeting to remove a lien so we could accept the property, to the staff has been working countless hours in partnership with us and building trail systems, and even just talking to landowners that say you need to talk to the land trust about conservation options. So really, thank you to all of you for being such great partners. And again, a lot of the work that the town has done recently by, building a bigger parking lot and providing that trail that connects the parking lot at Spur Cross to the trailhead at the Jewel, keeps them off of the road, making them safer, and especially the new work that just started today. The town manager mentioned widening that road. I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I have had, nightmares of a car rolling down into the Jewel. So really very important to be doing this work. So again, building these opportunities to not only protect the land, but connect people to nature. As I mentioned before, what we do is forever. And unfortunately, I will not be around forever. Our board won't, and our volunteers won't. So we need to ensure that we are, bringing up the next generations to really care about and love the desert, because they're going to be the ones that we pass this torch of conservation to. And it's really critical. And I just want to thank both the town and the county for helping to keep these connections to nature viable, open, and welcoming. So again, I look forward to continuing the partnerships with you all and, to protect our beautiful desert that we all love. And with that, I will take any questions if you have any.
Doesn't look like any, am I on here? Doesn't look like anybody's got any questions. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Vicki. Great job.
Thank you.
There is actually public comment on this one, so hang around.
We have no one wishing to
We got no slips on it, so don't hang around.
Run, Vicky.
Run, Vicky.
Get
Yeah,
better,
run,
Vicki.
Vicky, run.
Get better.
Thank you all very much. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is Thanks, RJ. Good seeing you again. Presentation by Arizona Public Service regarding outages that may occur during the wildfire season.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. APS recently approached us to talk about as we continue to move into this drier climate that we have and lack of moisture, that they've made some changes in the future on how they're going to respond to emergency outages here in the Cave Creek area. And tonight we have with us Jeff Spohn, who is the Director of Operations and Maintenance, and also Scott. You know what? I knew I was going to forget. Scott Dirth, who is the manager. So between the two of them, they have a great hand in making sure that the lights stay on here and the air conditioning kicked on several times. So we're really appreciative that they provide continuous power to us all the time. And so with that, I will ask them to come up and give you their brief presentation if they have. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and members of the public. As Mike, mentioned, Jeff Spohn, Director of Operations and Maintenance at APS. I oversee the distribution system, and Scott oversees the distribution system from a maintenance perspective in the greater metropolitan Phoenix area. So, and that system and our wildfire preparedness and response is what we're here to talk about tonight. The objective being to educate and inform, if you will, relative to our approach to wildfire preparedness and response. So you can hit the next one. Real quick, I'll touch on, the drivers behind this at APS as a company on the whole, whether you're the generation side, the delivery, wires and poles, if you will, or on the customer side. Safety and reliability are our top two areas of focus, and wanted to touch on those because they're foundational and really how we established our approach to the wildfire scenario and its increasing volatility, over the last, I'll say 20 years, if you will. So we're a very reliable utility. We have an extremely solid safety record, and that safety is not only our focus of our employees, but our customers, the general public, and again, definitely a top performing, reliable utility relative to our product, which is electricity. So next one, please. And so wildfire season's unpredictable. Certainly no stranger to you folks here, whether you go back, whatever it is, 10, 12, 15 years now.
17.
17, a complex. Wow, time flies. Or, over the last couple of years, been engaged in both. And obviously the environment that you live in here, whether it's wildland urban interface environment or the surrounding environments, conditions continue to deteriorate and are ripe for a wildfire. Next, please. And so I'll touch on, as I go through the deck, I'll touch on, our approach to this and our strategy, and it really focuses in three, specific areas: the prevention, which is before the fact, the mitigation, which is some of those efforts once we get into, if you will, that season, which seems to be almost all year round anymore, and then our response relative to when we do have an event. Next, please. So from a prevention standpoint, I think everybody's fairly familiar with, that we have a vegetation management program, and that was really centered around, it's been around for 40, 50 years, really centered around reliability. Vegetation contacts to our system typically result in, whether it's a momentary or sustained outage. And so that program's focus is on that. Detailed line inspections, which come in many forms. The one we'll focus on tonight is really around the fire mitigation in specific areas where we perform those feeders annually. And then customer programs, relative to our support and collaboration with really the FireWise initiative, and that comes in many shapes and forms, if you will. Next, please. This is one, I wanted to touch on and give its own slide, a program that we started about 4 years ago when we really became more aggressive to our approach. And, as you can see there, we call this Defensible Space Around Poles, or DSAP, if you enjoy the acronym space. And what that is really 10 foot around equipment poles. So a pole that, has the ability to become, or a pole and equipment that has the ability to become an ignition source, eliminate the fuel at the base of that pole. As recent as the Tunnel 2 fire here a little over a month ago in Flagstaff, where this program was in place and those poles have been cleared, was able, to save, 15, 20 poles, and as that fire burned through. We'll still lose some periodically, depending on the fuel outside of that and the heat generated, but been extremely successful program. So we invest dollars and resources in this all year round. Next, please. So right tree, right place. Again, we're trying to prevent, and there's a good picture of this, trying to prevent any impact from vegetation in our lines, which has the ability not only to cause an outage, but to be an ignition source. Even live green vegetation, can take us down that path. So there's some APS.com has a whole wildfire link to it. And then, certainly you can give us a call. There's many avenues to talk through what programs we offer, what we support, how we can help you to touch base with a collaborator. But I'm confident relative to you folks in the urban interface, you're fairly schooled on most everything we have there. So next, please. So right tree, right place. What I want to focus on here is if you look at what we call wire zone, border zone, and you may see some of this in your right of ways, and sometimes members of the public aren't super excited, about what this looks like in the end. But the reality is eliminating that vegetation to as much as we can, low growing trees, no shrubs in that wire zone, and then you work your way up in elevation and side clearance from there. But it's a concept that's been around a long time, but really focused on initially on reliability, but has proven to be very effective from a wildfire scenario as well. Not only as an ignition source space, but you will typically see wildland fire crews anchor on our right of way. So it's a good place to backburn from. It's a good place to establish some control zones from and steer that event, one way or another. Next. Defensible space. I'll kind of skip over that. I'm fairly confident. Mayor and council, you are very schooled in defensible space relative to, again, living in the urban interface. Next one. So mitigation protocols, this is the one Scott and I really want to touch base and make sure council understands our approach to this. And so we manage year round on what we call preparedness levels. That's a 1 through 5 scale. When we get to that preparedness level 3, and these preparedness levels, there's 13 criteria that go into them. There's fuel modeling, relative humidity, general weather, those kind of scenarios. And it's a very typical fuel model. The public land agencies use the same thing, and we collaborate with them, relative to what our preparedness levels look like. And so when we reach preparedness level 3, our approach is that if we realize a fault or an outage on our system, and that is in what we call a fire mitigation area, which you have several of those areas and feeders, if you will. So our lines from substation to end of line feed. When we realize an outage in that area and we're in preparedness level 3, we will not re-energize until we are able to put eyes and patrol it. And we'll patrol from, if it goes all the way back to the substation, we'll from the substation all the way on. If it goes to a device, somewhere along that line, we'll start at that device and patrol from there. And the reason that's important to understand is that's, kind of goes against, if you will, what we believe is a sound principle that we always operate in. That's safe, reliable electricity. Well, we're still safe, but we have customers that are out of power. Sometimes those outages are extended outages until we can get eyes on that system from the substation to to the end of line, to make sure we don't have something wire on the ground, to make sure that there isn't something there that we need to address before we start. We do not want to be the ignition source. And so as we go through and are in this program, and we went into P3 preparedness level 3 a month and a half ago or so. We're actually in preparedness level 4 now, which really escalates to the point where we're very calculated about which work we perform and which work we don't.
Again, to make sure that our footprint and our opportunity in that wildfire event space is very minimal. And then, you get to preparedness level 5, and it's more of an extreme relative to what we do. We also do a lot of mitigation in that space relative to works. You may see our crews out with a water truck or some other support relative to that situation. But we do intend on, we have spent some time with your customer base in town. We do intend on spending some more time circulating around, having some conversations, some smaller groups, relative to making sure that folks understand, our approach in this space. Fire mitigation is also on here as well, and that really ties a little bit closer. It's a pilot program where we're wrapping poles with mesh to see how effective we can be, again, from a heat impact, conductive standpoint, and continuing to say, understand our focus there is if we have a wildfire event that moves through and we don't lose any facilities, our re-energized, process goes much smoother and much quicker. If we have to replace parts or work on part of that system, that's customers out for a more extended period of time. And certainly in the conditions we're in now relative to temps and the ones we're likely to see here in the next 2 to 3 days and into the weekend, we want to minimize that outage impact by all means. All of our customers that are on those particular, if you will, feeders, which again is what we call our system that runs through a particular area, received either an email notification or a postcard in the mail that let them know that they were on that particular system and offered some of the same information that you see here on the slideshow today. Next one. So our fire mitigation specialist team that exists, or I should say, consists of a supervisor that oversees that group. There's 4 specialists. They're divided into 4 quadrants of our service territory. That's statewide. And then about 3 months ago, we hired a meteorologist, and that's gonna support us in several ways, but significantly in this space to, when we're in these scenarios, to help us kind of move in and out of those preparedness levels and be prepared from a response standpoint in a more productive way as well. So super excited to have him on board. Next, please. So this is, one of those avenues where I would say from a customer standpoint, it's a lean in space. If you're not on it now and you're an APS customer, loading the app or going on aps.com to see it, there's an outage map up there. That outage map provides, you can put a weather layer on it. So from a monsoon standpoint, probably understand those outages a little bit better. Very user friendly. You can touch on the outage itself and it'll provide you the information, including the estimated time of restoration, whether a crew's on site, whether we're patrolling the line, whether it's a public safety issue. Certainly the numbers there, you can always give us a call at the call center, but, relative to a user-friendly self-service, kind of scenario, the outage map and signing up for notifications where we will ping you and send that notification. So we understand your power's out, we're working to restore it. So you can have that push notification and the lean in notification from the outage map standpoint. So great tool. Next, please. And of course, again, some information, and we always provide this as a caveat, especially when we talk about seasonal readiness, summer preparedness, wildfire preparedness, and certainly avoid down power lines, staying 100 feet away, making sure that our first responders know. So, yep, 911 is always good. And then, have some flashlights, candles, batteries, cell phone chargers, all those things, water, a little bit of non-perishable from a food standpoint, always good to have from an emergency standpoint, relative to again, storm season coming up and wildfire preparedness. Next, please. Of course, we always recommend avoid the temptation, keep the refrigerator closed, turn off and unplug unnecessary, electronic equipment that's plugged in. Have surge protectors on hand if you keep it plugged in. Next, please. Okay, so got there quicker than I thought. I want to ask Scott, did I miss anything that we wanted to touch on?
I've explained the system a little bit, some of the hardening we've done. One thing we do, and I want you to understand, is that we have substations, all of our feeders kind of spider out.
Could you use the microphone? Yeah.
From our substations, all of our feeders kind of spider out. So what we do on a normal day, which is, not in any of the Ps, except for P1 and P2, is that a lot of us have experience. You'll see a little bit of a momentary outage at your house. So our gear will actually, if it sees a fault, it'll try to clear that fault, split second, re-energize, try to clear the fault, split second. If it sees there's still a fault, it'll take the power out. Okay, what we do during P3 and all the way up is once that trips, we will not re-energize. Okay, just like Jeff said. We put eyes on it, but what we've done with your feeders out here is we've put multiple devices out here to help sectionalize. So when that goes out, it doesn't take out a large amount of people. And then we can work from the back and come forward. Does that make sense? I know, talk with Mr. Baxley, part of it was, the downtown Cave Creek area. That's going to be closest to the substation and should see the least amount of interruptions. Okay. So we have fault indicators we have on our line, so our troublemen can go out there quickly and see where the fault is. We put trip savers out there so we can know where it sectionalizes the line in increments in order to get the power on as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to touch on a little bit of our system and what we've done for your area. I have New River, also a fire mitigation area, and around Lake Pleasant too. So we've done that for all those different areas.
I, for one, appreciate y'all's efforts to not emulate Southern California Edison or PG&E. Yeah, we don't need any of that going on. Councilman Morris?
Just a couple of quick questions.
Yes.
How many fires does APS have a year that are caused by electrical equipment?
By our equipment?
Yeah.
We're less than 50.
Okay.
And those fires, we count every fire. So in other words, it could be the Walmart parking lot on 35th Avenue in Indian School. The fuse blows, creates a little, fire in the landscape and burns up the Texas sagebush. We would include that. So from a wildfire event standpoint, where we go system to ground, less than 10.
We had one fire caused by a pole at the corner of Highland and church and a schoolhouse.
Okay.
Northeast corner. I never saw a call. What equipment, what happens? Is there equipment being energized that causes a spark? What happens that actually causes the fire on a pole like that, just sitting there in the corner? There was some vegetation on the ground around it, but it started a fire here. That's probably been 3 years, 4 years.
I'll let Scott talk to the specifics. I'll give him a high level segue. So the system is typically designed to do that. In other words, the fault comes back and a fuse would blow. And sometimes when that fuse blows, there's expulsion there relative to that fuse blowing. But that's what the system's designed to do, if you will, to protect, if you will. It's
To
like
protect the system, yeah.
Yeah. Just
But
exactly.
not the.
Bingo. So
Yeah.
we introduced a program where Scott was talking about some of the stuff we're putting on, and I'll let him speak specifically what we call L fuses. Yeah, we have belt fuses. So typically our normal fuse that you'll see in a town, it's a rod and it's got a fuse that goes up inside. When it blows, it can blow some sparks out the bottom. Okay, we completely eliminate those in all of our fire mitigation areas or anywhere else that we could potentially start a fire. So to your question, many things can cause that. Okay, first of all, equipment failure. A car could hit a pole down the way,
Yeah.
which should cause a fault on this pole. It could be birds, and we do a lot. We do that's one of our biggest things is avian protection. We make sure we have as much bird guard as we possibly can. But even a bird going up there and going face to ground could cause a fault, which could ignite and cause something to catch on fire on the ground too. So there's multiple things that can create this. And that's why what we've done in the high fire mitigation areas is try to eliminate each and every one of those the best that we can so that won't happen.
So in the town of Cave Creek, then if I heard you correctly, have you replaced all the fuses that can throw sparks around?
Within the town of Cave Creek, mainly the ones that the L fuses that Jeff was talking about are going to be out in your district areas to where there is a high probability for, if something like that happens, to cause a wildfire and for it to spread.
So we
rapidly.
still have some of the older style fuses in place today.
That's correct. Yep.
Is there a program in effect to take care of that issue?
Slowly. I mean, we have millions of these things in our system.
Well, I hope you're prioritizing areas like ours.
I will also tell you that we like to be, the first follower, if you will, relative to technology.
That's a good strategy.
Yep.
I like
and
it.
So we're careful to say, hey, let's, buy, 4 million L fuses and replace them everywhere because as technology continues to evolve, there may be something better and we kind of want to, so.
Now, you don't use circuit breakers then? You use fuses generally?
We do have what you call circuit breakers, which are going to be reclosers or at the substation, we got breakers.
Okay, but you don't have those on the poles out where all the hazard
We
is?
do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, we actually have some of your area, which are viper reclosers, which can actually count. It's a good shot, but typically they're going to be closer to the inner part of the city. Some of these fuses we're talking about won't carry the load vipers will carry, and they're large pieces of equipment that they want to pull.
Thank you. But by the way, I mean, that's first only fire I've seen caused by the APS equipment. I know electrical equipment sparks. We have a town code that's, there he is. We have a new town code that has some very strict penalties and requirements for the use of spark and fire and for open flames this time of year. We have several different tiers and we're in one now. Second tier, I think.
I'm assuming that when you were talking about years ago, you were talking about the Cave Creek Complex
I
fire,
was.
which was June of 2005. When
Been
that
around a long
sparked
time,
off
Mr.
right
Mayor.
up here with a lightning strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions from council? Well, there is public comment on this one as well. Do we have any on this one?
We have no one.
We have none. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Continue to keep us safe. I appreciate it. All the efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Yeah.
time.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, presentation regarding the 2022 concierge tour. Mr. Kautzman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. In an effort not to be excluded from the PowerPoint presentation themed meeting this evening, I've got a real short one, 3 slides for your enjoyment and information. The little bit of background for you this evening, the planning department was presented an opportunity to further promote the town of Cave Creek as a tourist destination by the Tourism Bureau Volunteer Coordinator Nina Spitzer back in December of last year. First want to single out and thank Nina Spitzer. We are really lucky to have such great volunteers in the community that help in so many areas and different things. And really what she does at the Tourism Bureau for the town of Cave Creek cannot be undersold. So the tour was held on the afternoon of March 29th. So if you are following me along, she first floated this idea in December and she didn't come in with just, hey, I've got an idea to do this. She actually came in with pages of notes and background information, cost estimates on different components of it, and her idea of what that would mean for the town. The town's total cost ended up being $888, which included the tour bus contracted to shuttle around the various concierge professionals and a pre-approved dinner menu hosted at Harold's after the conclusion of the tour. Many town representatives were involved, Mayor Bunch, the town manager, some various members of staff all chipped in and helped invite and welcome the concierge professionals in town. The event had a limited capacity and space filled very quickly for the event. And really just if you want to do the next slide, Brian, some just facts for. So we had approximately 18 concierge professionals joining us. The town had 40 local merchants that participated in the event, either by hosting a stop on the tour or providing various tastes along the way. We didn't want to fill them up too much before Harold's, but we gave them a good amount of food along the way. Then also providing gifts that were included in a gift bag that the concierge professionals were then able to take home. The guests were also encouraged to complete a survey about their experience, which obviously Nina had already ready, prepared in December. So it really on staff's end, $888. It's kind of what I would call a win-win for staff, because really staff time was minimized by the amount of volunteers that we had working on it. And also the organizations, the tour bus company has a long history with the town, and obviously our partnership with Harold's over the years. They were happy to host the concierge at the end of the tour. You'll see there the picture of the various members that came, that attended, and also a picture of the swag bags themselves. Really the only sweat I broke on this project was carrying the boxes, and the mayor actually helped me at Harold's unload them, but carry all the boxes of those swag bags into Harold's and stage that for the end of the tour. Feedback was very positive, and Nina has offered to look at this again in coming years, or, obviously in coming seasons. But the main feedback we got from the professionals was maybe instead of doing it in March, doing it maybe end of summer, early fall, when they're gearing up for tourist season, as opposed to just coming out of it, which I think would be a good idea. So last slide, Brian. Once again, special thanks to the Tourism Bureau volunteers. That's Nina Spitzer, Darlene Southern, Judy Smith, and Diane Schur for all their effort putting this together in less than 3 months and under budget. So that's all I have. Really the feedback from the professionals was very positive. They're excited to send people up here. They had a really fun time riding around on a tour bus, hearing about how fun and zany Cave Creek is from our volunteers. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Question from council?
Is there a copy of the survey that we can have?
Yes, I can forward that to mayor and council. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else? There's public comment on this one.
We have none.
We have none. Mr. Councilman, thank you so much. That was a fun day. Everybody I talked to after they over at Harold was just thrilled with the time that they had. All right. Agenda item number 4, discussion, possible approval of resolution R 2022-09, a resolution of the mayor and the town council of the town of Cave Creek, Arizona, leasing the town's assets obtained from Eagle West to Cox Communications for 99 years, as is, for the sum of $1,000.
Mayor and council, we are the proud recipients of an antiquated communication system from Eagle West. And Cox Communications actually offered to buy it. Of course, in conversations with our town attorney, we were unable to sell it without going through auction. So we decided on a 99-year lease for the $1,000 in order so that they could utilize whatever assets they can get out of this thing to help expand their systems. We do have a license with Cox that will, their expansion is good for us in that we do get revenue from their expanded service. So this is, again, to quote, the win-win. The asset is doing us no good and we are not locating it. In fact, I have to call Cox or APS every time one of the trash truck hits one of the wires. So to get it off our books would be a wonderful thing. I have Rachel Aha from Cox Communication. If you have any questions regarding how the number was arrived at or the value of the system, but otherwise.
Can I assume that the intent of this is that they look to go into the neighborhoods away from the main road?
Yes, that's the intent, to go over where the Eagle West used to have it. We don't know what the status of the conduits are, how many times it's been hit. They are taking all that risk to go through and see what they can do, but they're going to utilize what they can of the conduit system and the overhead lines.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be disappointed. I have metal APS pole and the thing hanging down from there that's part of this system becomes a wind chime when the wind blows, when it bangs that pole.
Yeah, you won't believe how many people we've had call out to get rid of the wind chimes and the Tarzan ropes for the
Yeah.
kids.
I have a question.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, the communication from Cox in here says something about the attached map. There is no attached map. And since I've had this cable thing sitting in front of my house for 20 years, I was just wondering if I'm on that map and maybe someday something will happen. But I think it also would be useful for other people in the town, if they want to call up and lobby the heck out of Cox, to be able to know where potentially cable would be available.
That was my, I apologize, I did not get the map in the packet as we were doing some last minute shuffling around from sale to lease. So my apologies. They did provide a map and I can get that to mayor and council.
Good. Okay, so you can send me a copy of that map
Yes, we can.
before the vote? Thank you so much.
Mayor.
Councilman Silva.
I don't know if I have it on my phone. I don't have it with me in my packet.
If it's in your pocket, it's too small for him to see.
Yeah.
Yes, like this.
Hal, if this were to have gone out to bid, was there any estimate of what the price could have been or would have been, or even if you'd have any bidders?
My guess is that it's a very limited market on who would want it. And right now it's more of a liability for the town. So no, we did not have we did have discussions. The town manager and myself had discussions with Cox Communications as far as it goes, but my personal feeling is that I'm surprised we didn't have to pay.
That answers the second part of my question. Thank you.
Councilman Morris.
Two questions. I think there needs to be something in here about what if it's unusable? I mean, what happens if it is not something they can use, and they have a 99-year lease on something that.
What it will give them the opportunity, Councilmember Morris, is to replace it and fix it. If they own it, then they can come in under their normal contract and fix it, repair it, replace it, and those type of items. So once they have the use of it, then they can come in and replace it.
The other thing is performance. We quite often run across contracts where our performance is in stone and the other side's performance is in wax, where we don't, that something happens and it doesn't happen on the other side. What will the contract say about performance? And what, for example, why not put a performance time, a certain time period, with the right to, cure and things like that? What are we doing to protect? I presume it's worth something. Other people are putting in, streaming facilities and, Verizon and all the rest of them are putting things in.
Yeah, I think I'd like to have the representative from Cox answer that if I could.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Rachel Aja with Cox Communications. We are accepting this lease in the conduit in an as-is condition. We will then spend our own resources to proof that conduit and see what is usable. Anything that is usable, we will then use to put fiber in the ground and serve your residents. Where it's not usable, the benefit to Cox is that there's already conduit in the ground and we don't have to create a new trench. We can remove that conduit and put new conduit in that is usable for us, which reduces our costs and also our time.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great deal for Cox if it works out. $100,000 is over a 100-year period. Let's see, that's $10 a year. That's a pretty good deal. And you get tax deduction on 18% of that, I'm sure. But what I'm interested in is protecting the town's long-term interest. If it doesn't work out, or if you do not, the only value to the town is if you put it into those 1,500, there, there's big money out there. And, you can come in with, well, the risk is low for the town and the reward is great. But on the other hand, giving everything away at the first without having any kind of performance requirements or the ability to renegotiate if performance isn't there, I am leery of.
I understand that. And I think because it is not a usable, or I guess we don't know if it's usable at this time, the town would, we don't have a timeline to know. We have to proof it, and that will determine the timeline. Once we proof the conduit that is in the ground, we are going to provide a map to the town. Perhaps at that time, we can have a discussion about timelines and performance, but until we know what that looks like, we
Well,
won't be able.
why take a 99-year lease if you want to do that? Why not build that into the contract so that it's, I'm interested in getting the Cox provided to more of the town. That's one of the biggest problems in this town is, and Cox is not a utility. Cox is a private company for profit. And this is a very low cost giveaway to Cox. It's not like it's the power company or something where everybody gets to participate in it. So the value to me is getting service to more towns. And I'm interested in protecting the town's interest and not giving everything away at first before I have a chance to see what the value is and whether you're going to perform.
Mr. Morris, ask a question on your question. I was wondering, how could Cox or any other company determine what's there without actually conducting field investigations and tests and digging things up? And if they were to do it before they had either a contract or a lease, if you will, it just seems incumbent that the town would do that to see what the value of the residual equipment is and not place that on the user.
Well, very simple. What you do is you have a stage program where there is a investigation period, and you have some kind of guarantee that Cox is going to get it if they find it usable. And at that point, but if they do find it usable, there has to be some kind of performance, I would think.
I'll agree with that.
It's just a more
concept,
complicated
but
contract.
It's been my experience, you'll find a section that's usable, then there'll be a section that's not there or not usable, then another one. So it'll be piecemeal. I don't believe.
But
you'll find a system that's 100% all intact and contiguous with each other.
If it's not usable, then they have they spent $1,000 and they have a 99 years of, and we can't use it for anything else. That's the issue.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Mr. Marin, does the town have an existing agreement with Cox that essentially gives it a franchise?
Yes, we have a license agreement with Cox that has been in place for a number of years. For
Does
them
that
to
run
come
for
and service.
99 years?
I don't know that there's a termination on it. Do you know?
One would think that it would be coterminous rather than.
Correct.
Yes. Well, that's what we're planning is that it would run, that it would be 99 years or run with the license.
Well, it didn't say that. That's.
Yes.
But that's what would be the case.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be my understanding. Because if they.
And the light, how long is the license?
Mayor, members of council, it is a 10-year license with automatic renewals. But either party can choose to terminate the license with cause. So if Cox wasn't performing or there was something that made you think that we couldn't serve, we could
Okay,
have that
that's fine,
discussion.
because then if we make this a coterminous kind of thing with the existing license, then wouldn't that be
And that was the agreement that we
sufficient for
understood.
everybody?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Bill Sims.
Yeah.
Council members, I've listened to all three questions, and the question Councilmember Silva asked was exactly the question I asked when this first came. I go, because they wanted to do it as a sale. And I said, if you can do it as a sale, it has to be bid. But we could do it as a lease, assuming it would be 99 or coterminous with a license. Then I asked, do we know that this is a sound business deal? The problem is the Vice Mayor hit it right on the head. You already have a contract with Cox. And Cox and the other companies have done a very good job with the legislature, robbing you, cities and towns, of the ability to negotiate an agreement. It's fixed by statute. And you get 5%. And so the theory behind this is they have an incentive to drive their fiber to areas of your community where they can make 95% and only pay you 5%. That's why they were first, I think, come to the scene, and to avoid, as Hal pointed out, the liability for damaged product now. So that's where we are. Is that they already have a contract. That contract is driven by statute. The incentive for them is, now that we've given them, and you can read the emails that I got back from them, is that this would make it less expensive for them to expand, giving them a greater opportunity to expand. No, there aren't benchmarks in this, nor is there benchmarks in the license you have with them now. The license you have with them now lets them serve whoever they can serve. But don't blame, if you have a concern about that, talk to the legislature. They're the ones who limit your ability to negotiate with these enterprises.
Mayor, members of council, I would just like to point out the 5% license fee is through the Federal Cable Act. There's a requirement there, a limit on what we can pay.
Okay. One more question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
How a competing cable company could enter Cave Creek? Yes or no?
I'm not sure how the license, Mr. Sims, do you know?
They could, but they'd have to put in the infrastructure.
Yes.
This isn't exclusive.
Yeah, it's a non-exclusive license. Anybody could get a license and serve.
Thank you. One last question. Do we know how many customers were or could have been on this system that's now been vacated?
Mayor, members of council, I'm not sure how many could have been served by Eagle West when they were in service. We've estimated 1,500 to 1,900 in our first 2 phases of construction, if we're able to get this conduit and use the right of way where it currently sits. Okay. And that would be in 2022 and 2023 phases.
Yeah. At the time, it was kind of interesting because when we bought our property, the person who sold it said, see right there, you got cable TV. As soon as you move in, it'll be hooked up. And I said, oh, that's great. Thank you.
You had conduit.
That was 20 years ago.
But there is the question of critical mass. You're not going to dig up lines and because there's 2 people on the end of it. That's not beneficial for Cox. There has to be a certain number of people on that cable line.
Mayor, members of council, to your point, council member Montechino, that's why we're looking for this conduit, because it reduces the cost. When we build a financial model to serve, we want to serve as many homes as possible for the most reasonable cost, obviously a return on investment. And so we need, in this case, we need this conduit where it's usable and the right of way where the conduit, unusable conduit currently is, in order to reduce those costs and the timeline for construction, because we will get to more homes quicker.
Mayor, is it true then that if this is approved for the 99-year lease, that more residents in our town that do not have Cox, you had thrown out a number, and I know it's just a number, 1,500 to 900 potentially, if it's half that number, could then possibly opt to go with Cox instead of having some lesser, slower service that they might be getting. So there's, the way I see it, there might be quite a bit of benefit to residents in the town by doing this.
Mayor, members of council, that's correct. Yes. Our goal is to build to as many homes in Cave Creek as possible.
It's a good sales approach.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, the proposal that Cox has in your packet does say the lease terminates upon the termination of their license. It wasn't something we left out.
All right, there is a public comment on this one.
David Phelps.
David Phelps, Cave Creek resident. We have no appraisal. We have no map. We have a 99-year lease, and all I can think of is the last big term lease we did with Rancho Manana and how much we reminisce and
Yep.
regret.
2034.
You tie the hands of the future with something that you think you're getting the monkey off your back today, and you find out later it was a golden goose. This smells horrible to me. Absolutely horrible. I would not do a deal with Cox or anybody else for $1,000 for 99 years. It's just ridiculous. You want to do a 10-year deal, give them time to explore, give us time to find out the value. At least charge rent if you're going to do a lease. Have it a yearly amount that brings some equity to the residents of the town. I have Cox line running right down my property line. Guess what? We don't serve residential in your area. It's for business only. Yet it's out on the poles. It's underground where it's has to be underground because we help pay to put everything underground. And as far as a necessity, really? I guess I have a different value set than you, Bob, on this one. We seem to see eye to eye on some things, water, electricity, gas, but Cox, I just don't feel that this is something that the town should be going into business with, where our part of the business is we give you this asset that we think is the monkey on our back because we don't know what it is. I would just look at this a little more. Continue it if you're sure. If you're sure it's a good deal, continue it. Take a night to think about it. Thank you.
David, when did you ask them to hook up to that last?
6 months after it ran past my property.
When was that? Like 1904?
No, it was 1840. It's been 5 years.
5 years. Wonder if that's changed.
You know, I asked once, you know, hey,
I get
if
it.
I'm not good enough for you right after you trespass through my yard and put that shit down the right away, then I don't need you either. You know, come to find out, they put these little boxes up on towers and your signal's just fine. Or I got a little dish on the house and our signal's just fine. So, you know, it's the other thing is, as time goes on, the technologies could be outdated as well. And then so now we're stuck with this long-term agreement for outdated technology that's in our right of way, but they have a right to it. So.
Mr. Sims, you listening to this?
Yes, sir. I had these same questions when it first came to me. And well, the business decision is made because this is a way to induce them to serve greater numbers. You have an existing license agreement with them. If you wish to table this, you can, because I did ask where the $1,000 came from. The reason it had to be converted to a lease is that it would require an auction. What it would be is go back fee and do an auction. But the question is, I don't know who's going to bid, but we'll have to wait and see. And the question about the changing technology, what I think the point that has been made is that perhaps conduit may be in the past. And so, and you're getting rid of something, but those are all your calls. They're business calls, they're not legal calls. We could table this and do an auction if you wish. It's whatever you want to do.
I guess, do we have any more?
You're not.
That was the only one. David was the only. Councilman Silva.
Yeah.
Yes,
If we don't address this tonight, the only way that you can find out what this conduit and improvements are worth is to go out and look for it and put it together, correct?
Test it, yeah.
yes. And right now we don't have a lot of information on what Eagle West had. We are actually obligated as part of the blue stake to go out and blue stake it and expend our time. We don't even know where it is because we own it. And so part of the thing within our right of way, and so there is no idea of where it really is within our town records.
But in order to put it out to bid, the town would have to know the value of it, which would be obtained through an appraisal. And an appraiser can't appraise anything if you don't know what it is. So my question is, would the town be willing, would you be willing to recommend town resources going out there and spending, I don't know how much time looking for all this stuff, itemizing it, and then handing that over to an appraiser in which to appraise?
So how many thousands of dollars do we want to spend? I'll leave it on council. How many thousands of dollars do we want to spend to locate a facility that we have no idea where it is, but that Cox is willing to do? And right now, we don't really have the manpower to go out and do that, but so we'd have to hire it out. And I guess it becomes an economic decision on how much the council wants to spend to do such an appraisal.
Zero. May I jump in? Because I think I have a solution to that. Why not just put a clause in that says that they have to do their evaluation with a certain period of time and they have to make a decision. It is a failure or it's a success. And if it's a failure, it comes back to us. If they don't want the line, it's not theirs 99 years, no matter what happens, it comes back to us and we can have the future if we need it. If it is a success, then put a performance clause in that says, well, you've got to have 1,000 hookups or some such thing.
Did I understand you to say that we have to blue stake this now?
Yes.
Our personnel has to go out and find this stuff whenever somebody calls for blue stake.
Yes, because we own it.
Our people that work for the town of Cave Creek.
Correct.
And the minute that we sign this, then our people quit going out looking for something. We have no idea where it's there or not.
Exactly.
It's pretty easy for me.
Well, the other point too is that, it's a 99-year lease, but it coincides, it's renewable every 10 years. So it's really a 10-year lease or whatever the balance is left on Cox's remaining agreement now, and then it would run for another 10 years and so on and so forth. But they do, I agree. with Mr.
But
Morris.
if
it is tied up for,
if they terminate after 10 years, they've still got this line that we've given them for
Well,
99
I think
years.
we could make that adjustment to coterminous with their lease.
That's already in the documents. That's
Already in the document.
Okay.
That's already there.
It's in there with the agreement that we currently have with them.
Yes. No. It's in the, no, because you have a license agreement that says nothing about fiber, about the conduit. The document before you says it's 99 years terminable upon the termination of their license.
Okay.
That's on page 25 of 42 of your package.
What are we going to do, folks?
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay, I want to hear it.
I move that this be returned to with staff with the following provisions. One is that there be a provision that in case of failure, it comes back to the town. In case and we give them, they have if they want it and it is good enough, then they get to keep it. But if it fails, it comes back to the town. They can't just sit on it. It's still ours. Because the only justification is we may need it for something else sometime. And the final thing is there be some kind of reduction in terms. 99 years, it'll be paid out 10 times by that. I think that term of 99 years is too long.
Do it the way I suggest. Do we have a second on this one? Doesn't sound like it. What was your suggestion again, David?
My suggestion was you make it a coterminous agreement. And according to the representative from Cox, it is if you want to stop it, it's stopped. If you want to stop it, it's stopped. Doesn't that make it about as equitable as it could possibly be?
The problem is you terminate all the Cox facilities in town. It's not just this, that is the entire town's franchise. So you terminate.
Which means it's probably not going to stop.
This mean little thing, this little thing here would terminate everything in town. I don't think that's practical.
Question, if, just for clarification, if we do not renew the agreement for Cox whenever it's up, how many more years is remaining under that 10-year, roughly? 5, 2, 1, whatever it is. If we don't renew it and we bring another provider in here, if Cox under this lease finds more conduit and determines they're going to use it, or they find areas that there isn't any and they connect it up, they put in the trench, put in the conduit and connect it, that's theirs to use then in perpetuity, is it not, Al?
Well, as long as they have the license with the town.
But if they don't have the license, if they, let's say there's 8 years remaining in their agreement, and within the next 2-3 years, they put in cable, optical cable, fiber optics in this Eagle system, and we do not, or they terminate wanting to do business with the town, who gets the benefit of that fiber optic cable that's there?
I would have to look at the main license agreement. In other words, like with some of our licenses that we do with other utilities, there is a removal clause where they have to remove the facilities. There is another license agreement where they can turn the facilities that they abandon or no longer have need for over to the town, or they could do like Eagle West did and just leave. And then we get it by default, which I would have to look at the main Cox license to see how that is structured. But I would believe that if Cox decided to stop and somebody else would come in, there it would probably be either a termination of, in other words, a termination and removal or of facilities, or I don't think this conduit is a large part of the other facilities that they have in the ground.
Ms. Aha, would you like to say something?
Mayor, members of council, the license agreement that we have with the town allows us to operate in the right of way. If we no longer had that, we couldn't legally own our equipment in the right of way. So we would have to make some kind of an agreement to remove it or sell it or transfer it to the town at that point.
Are we assuming that all this Eagle equipment is in the right of way?
Come on, we got as-built drawings.
A large part of it is, at least the ones that we've encountered, again, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to go through people's property, willy-nilly. So the right of way would have seemed like the most appropriate place for them to go.
But
That or
we don't-
APS poles.
But we don't know for sure.
No, we do not know for sure. That's the adventure that Cox would be undertaking.
When did Eagle West leave Cave Creek? Does anybody know?
As near as I can research it, it's somewhere around 2004. So what you're talking about is old coax cable that's been baking in the sun for 17 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And old PVC conduit that may or may not have a shelf life left on it.
And I do believe that it was in my neighborhood at one time. I really think it was down there. Of course, by the time we got all the remodeling done, everything, nobody was around to actually hook the thing up, or if they were, I couldn't find them.
Mayor, I could also say, Mayor, that they didn't do much of an upgrade. They were just using the previous company's infrastructure to operate.
Well, how'd they get
it? It was really old. It's really, really old.
Did we lease it to them whenever the previous company left?
They had a franchise agreement back then.
They had a what?
They had a franchise agreement back then.
Okay.
Mayor, I think the vice mayor came close to something that bridged the differences between Councilmember Silva and Councilmember Morris when he said they've agreed that it will terminate, meaning Cox, this lease would terminate when their license terminates. Take out the 99-year lease and just says this terminates when their license terminates. So that if they aren't still your provider, then this lease terminates and they don't have it for 99 years. They agreed to that in their term sheet. Take out the 99 years and just say this lease terminates when their license terminates and then we don't have the 99-year conundrum.
I would feel much better about that.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know. I want to make sure Cox is okay with that.
Why can't we make this an addendum to the existing contract? And because what will happen if sometime in the distant future, Cox is no longer the company doing this, they're going to sell their assets to the new company. And the new company then will just pick everything up. But like somebody said, 10 years from now, this will be passé anyways.
It's a buggy whip.
Mayor, members of council, the current license agreement that Cox holds with Cave Creek is a uniform video service license, and state statute, as your attorney stated, is very prescriptive in what can be included in that. So we can't make an addendum onto that license.
Okay.
I agree with her. I know the lobbyist who lobbied your legislation. So I think that the simple way is, I forget your first name. Could you live with, take out the 99 years, just make a coterminous? Would that work?
I would have to take it back to my legal team, but
Okay.
I think that
You've already agreed that it'd be 99 years terminable with your license termination. That's why it
I
should
believe that that's already what it says. So
Yes.
Yeah, so
I think I need some help here. What's the real risk to Cave Creek?
there's not much risk at all.
No.
Except we don't have to go out and find the dang lines. for
Cox
Blue State.
Cable is coming. They're going to put up risk capital in the hopes of revenue. The town of Cave Creek, in my view, town of Cave Creek is not going to be flooded, okay, with Cox customers. Okay, I've talked to Cox. Okay, I have that old cable stuff in my HOA. Okay, and Cox has said, Reg, you don't have critical mass. We're not going to trench up something for 3/4 of a mile and put 5 people on it. It ain't gonna work. Now, Cave Creek is a town that's spread over several acres. Okay, this is going to be an expensive operation for Cox. They're putting up the risk capital in the hopes of revenue. All right, God bless them. It may work. I personally don't think so.
Yeah.
But I don't see the risk to Cave Creek. They make a go of it or they walk away. Okay.
I'm going to withdraw.
What have I missed in that?
I withdraw my motion. I find the other end of the table persuasive.
Okay, so looking at the resolution, it says, whereas Cox Communications requested to lease the abandoned Eagle West facilities for 99 years in an as-is from the town for the sum of 1,000 as shown in Exhibit A. We're going to want to change that 99 years to what in this thing?
A week and a half.
Term of their license. It's on that page that I read, but I'm only on one screen. And I'm sorry I'm not there tonight. I'm stuck in.
That was on page 23 of our 42 in our
Okay.
RZ. Yeah, yeah. Okay, if we pass this, and you can take it back to your legal, if they don't like it, then we can argue with them.
I'll give them your number.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. It's economy of scale. You know, if they look at how far we're spread out, they're going, what the heck are we doing anyway? It's an issue. Let's see.
Take it out of the third line of that second
Let me
paragraph.
read what it says in their letter here.
On their
On
letter?
page 42, on page 25.
Okay, let's see. Okay.
Second paragraph, Cox
Oh.
Communications Arizona LLC Cox agrees to enter into a 99-year lease for of Eagle One's, I think it was Eagle West, abandoned assets located within the town limits in an as-is condition for a total of $1,000. The lease will run concurrent to and within the uniform video service license between Cox and the town and would terminate upon termination and non-renewal of the license.
And in order to achieve that, all we do is just remove the 99 year, and we're sitting right where we need to be.
Yeah, just put that in.
And leave it alone.
that'll work.
99
That will
Into a
work.
lease of Eagle One's abandoned assets located to a town of as is condition for a total of 1,000. Lease will, it's in it, yeah, okay, yeah.
Run concurrent to and.
That'll make David happy. It's 1,000 every 10 years.
I have to say, he's absolutely right. We have been snookered into long-term leases and we should learn from our mistakes. And if we take out the 99, I'm good, but if we don't,
Okay.
I can't vote for it.
All right, let me see here. So then we go back to our resolution. We go to,
Motion.
okay. Okay, the resolution 2022-009, the third line says for 99 years. We need to rewrite a resolution.
Or just strike out 99 years for a term coterminous with the Cox Cave Creek license for a sum of, just take out the 99 years. We can get that revised. If the council will approve that, we can get it typed up and the mayor and I can sign it next time.
And then the third whereas has 99 years also.
I was consistent.
That's all of them. And with the intent being the modified letter from Cox.
Yes.
Okay, that'll get us out
okay.
of this quandary that we seem to be stuck in. All right. For us, our motion there, the 99 years. All right, let me try this.
Go.
Motion to approve resolution R 2022-09, a resolution of the mayor and town council of the town of Cave Creek, Arizona, leasing the town's assets obtained from the Eagle West to Cox Communications as is for the sum of $1,000 to run concurrently with what's the license called?
Uniform video service.
Uniform video license.
Yes.
Uniform video license.
Video service license.
Video service license. Video service. And meet the intent of the letter from Cox with the words 99 year removed from the letter.
Mayor, don't you want to add in there and be coterminous with the current Cox?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And well, I do that?
He did that, I think.
I did that. I kind of did that when I added to run with the link.
Concurrent with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're going to have to go back and listen to the tape to figure out what I just did because I hadn't written it correctly. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. This one is, believe it or not, this is financial. So we're going to need to do a roll call on it.
Councilmember Monachino,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Councilmember Royer,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Mayor Bunch.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Let's hope hope your legal doesn't go goofy over this. All right, let's go to agenda item number 5, discussion allergy season, discussion and possible approval of resolution R 22-08, a resolution of the mayor and town council of the town of Cave Creek, Arizona, declaring that certain right of way located within the town of Cave Creek and described as the east 5 feet of Schoolhouse Road along the west line of parcel 216-06-18A and a portion of the west line of parcel 216-06-18B is no longer necessary for public use as a roadway and vacating said right-of-way subject to reservation of all easements of record. Read that right?
Yes, Mayor. What we have is, this is actually another one of these land trades. We have the need for 10 feet of, which we're going to get from a deed of gift in exchange for this, which will allow for a right-hand turn from westbound Cave Creek Road onto northbound Schoolhouse Road. We currently have an 80-foot right-of-way for Schoolhouse Road. This will reduce it down to a 75-foot right-of-way, which we can get the ultimate street section within. So it's a trade-off of value for value, essentially, that allows for the Mercado to make some a few adjustments with that extra 5 feet, and for us to get a right turn lane that they will construct going northbound from Schoolhouse from Cave Creek Road onto Schoolhouse. I will answer any questions.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Councilman Sova.
Yeah, this 10-foot, additional 10-foot that we would be acquiring on Cave Creek Road. That huge utility pole, I assume that would be at the east end of that newly acquired 10-foot section.
Correct. We have a map on, this time we did include a map of both. It is in the map that shows both the give and is Exhibit C in your packet.
31 of 42.
And so what we've done is we went around, we started at the pole. We shortened up what's called the storage because it's a full stop condition anyway. So we shortened up the storage in order to allow probably 2 or 3 cars to store before making the right-hand turn at the light.
That utility pole would in no way present a risk factor to the start of the right turn lane, would it?
Excuse me, would you repeat that?
I said that existing utility pole would not create a problem or a risk for somebody starting to turn into this right turn.
No, it will not, because we're starting beyond we're starting the taper after that utility pole.
It
So,
follows whatever it is you follow.
correct.
Highway standards and design.
Yes,
guidelines.
ASHTO standards, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Is there a plan for the future to have a left turn lane into Galloway Heights? Or is that just going to be the way it is now?
What the plan is once we build out the east side of Schoolhouse, which will be done by Mercado, just like we made Galloway build out their west side, is to have a dual left lane. And so a through lane, and then sometimes referred to as a suicide lane, but it's one that won't block northbound traffic as they're trying to make their left turn in.
Okay,
And the
that can
same
be
thing,
accommodated by the 75-foot right of way.
correct. And the same thing will happen for people traveling southbound who want to make a left turn into the Mercado. Will be there, and then they'll be able to do the left turn into the post office in the same manner in that dedicated lane that could turn either way.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? There's public comment on this one. David? Oh, he doesn't have one? Okay. We're back to council.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah.
Motion approved resolution R 2022-08, a resolution of Mayor and Town Council of Town of Cave Creek, Arizona, declaring that certain right-of-way located within the town of Cave Creek and described as east 5 feet of Schoolhouse Road along the west line of parcel 216-06-18A and a portion of the west line of parcel 216-06-18B is no longer necessary for the public use as a roadway and vacating said right of way, subject to reservation of all easements of record.
Second.
Wow, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, 7-0. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible approval of a cooperative purchase agreement with the city of Chandler for services with James Cook and Hobson, Inc. Prince JCH to purchase sanitary aeration system parts for the water range aeration system for an amount up to $26,630.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So this is actually paying for some equipment that actually have put into our capital program. So this is the aeration equipment. I got a couple of photos which actually helps explain it. So as part of the wastewater treatment process, we use air to actually both mix and introduce oxygen to allow the systems to work. And what you're seeing here is the yellow dashed area, hatched area is actually the basins we're talking about that these aeration equipment lives. We actually have blowers in the building, above ground blowers, and what you're seeing is the below ground reservoirs. These reservoirs are about 25 feet deep, and you see a small portion above ground. So last year we went in, next slide, Brian, and we did an investigation. We were having some trouble in one of the basins. It's actually 2 treatment trains that we have at the plant, SBR1 and SBR2. And what you're seeing is the white PVC pipe is actually the aeration system. And last year we had a diver go in and actually we found that one of those legs had broken. We were able to cap that, but while he was down there, we had him do an inspection of all these aeration heads. They're actually just a 9-inch diameter rubber membrane, and they actually are set up to provide a certain size of bubble. And what he found out is that most of them, since they've been in continuous duty use since 2010, since the plant went online, they're no longer putting out the bubbles that they should be. So this is basically a reset of the aeration system in the 2 basins. What you're seeing there is just one of the 2 basins. There's 2,296 of these to be replaced between the 2 basins itself. And then the goal will be to basically reset that and get better mixing and a better treatment process. Next slide, Brian. So that was a sequence batch reactor. Then once it goes through the process, it goes into another basin. As the waste material from the process goes into what we call the sludge basin. We actually had the diver go inspect this basin too. It's a slightly different configuration. It's a stainless steel header, unlike the PVC you saw on the other slide. And those protrusions on the side are actually, they're a coarse air diffuser. So what we found during the inspection last year is about half of them are covered with material, so there's no air coming out of them. So we actually have to do 2 exercises. One is go in and clean out the entire basin. And then we'll actually go through and replace these. A few of the heads were broken. We think we might damage some in the cleaning operation. Our goal is actually, this is part of the next year's capital improvement program, as identified as some of the plant improvements. This is something we've been planning for since last fall. The goal of bringing it forward to council now is it's an 8 to 10 week lead time on getting this equipment. We want to get all the parts in place so that we can get this done during the low flow time of the plant. The flows start to pick up in October, November. So by getting the equipment ordered a little early now, it gives us time to work with the contractors, make sure we get the installation. On the membrane head side, our first attempt is going to be with a diver. The divers who did the inspection can actually do the work. They said it takes 2 to 3 weeks to go through and actually replace the physical heads. In the case of the sludge basin, we're actually going to try and bring the sludge level down, actually bring a contractor in to vector the entire chamber out and go in and replace these heads. So it's a reset of the plant. It's something that we budgeted for in the capital program, and we're just trying to get council approval so we can move forward with the purchase. With that, take any questions.
And you keep saying diver.
Yep.
That's worse than golf balls in the golf ball.
Are you looking for a job, Ernie?
No, I'm certified, but not in that. Well,
Lloyd
never mind.
Bridges.
I'm not going to finish the phrase.
Yeah.
Question.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you
Sure.
make a motion, or could I just say that I was invited out to meet the diver and watch him?
Did you shake his hand?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah.
Sean, either we approve this expenditure or the water ranch plant doesn't work.
It'll keep it working. You know, the
yeah.
aeration system is critical. We
Yes.
found some deficiencies and we want to get it addressed, and we brought it forward in the capital program. So this was funded in the capital project. So we actually knew about this last year and we've been trying to put the money together to fund this. So we're trying
Thank
to
you.
keep the system working as best we can.
There's a public comment on this one.
No speakers.
Nope. We're back to council for a motion, please.
Can I do it?
Yep.
Okay. Motion to approve a cooperative purchase agreement with the city of Chandler for services with James Cook and Hobson Inc., JCH, to purchase sanitary aeration system parts for the Water Ranch aeration system for an amount up to $26,630.
Second.
All right.
As long as I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Councilmember Royer,
Yes.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember Monachino,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Bunch.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. And item number 7, which is discussion and possible approval of a cooperative purchase agreement with the city of Tempe for services with Hydra Contracting LLC for fire hydrant maintenance, inspections, and parts for an amount up to $150,000.
Mayor and council.
This is why we made you wait till last tonight, because you spend more money.
Mayor and council, so this is a continuation of a contract that we entered into with Hydra Contracting back in 2020. As our staff resources, we only have 5 people. We're actually down a vacancy right now in our distribution crew. So it's hard for our staff to keep up with just ongoing maintenance of the leaks and everything else in the system. So the town got a little backwards on our maintenance of our fire hydrant system. So in 2020, we actually brought Hydra Contracting in. Before we did it was in August that we did the larger contract value. Before that, we actually had them come through and do an inventory and assessment of our hydrants. And then we came back to council and got the authority. Initially, we thought this would be a 3-year contract. We've expanded it faster than we expected because we found more deficiencies. We've been lucky, and Hydra has actually been a good team member for us. So this is an example of where we've been using contractors instead of staff resources. The work that have been doing would have taken probably a few staff members, and they're actually geared up to do this type of work. So what they do is we have them do 2 things for us. One is an assessment, so an annual inspection. So because we've exceeded the original contract value, we've been delayed in getting the assessments done this year. We'll get them go out and they'll actually physically touch all the hydrants and give us a report back and tell us a deficiency list. We've been working down the deficiency list for the last couple of years. Every year we get some new hydrants that come onto that list. The deficiencies can be everything from we have to repair some parts. They have to come in and replace internal gaskets or other things, all the way up through actual hydrant replacements. We've actually had to do that in a couple of cases where the hydrants have actually deteriorated to the point where we've actually physically had to remove them or replace them. So in total, the town has 670 fire hydrants right now in our inventory. We're going to be losing some as part of the transition with Carefree. So that's about 126. So we'll be left with 544 that we still need to maintain moving forward. With the contract, we've been able to work with Hydra Contracting. They've been able to touch all the hydrants. This will be the 3rd time. This year will be the 3rd time they've physically touched them all. And they've had 145 hydrants that they've done repairs on. Again, that's from a few full replacements up through some minor repairs. But I think it's been a great value for the town. It's required us not to increase our full-time employees in the distribution crew to keep up with this critical task. So we're asking that we can allow it to be continued with this. We actually pay for this with our non-professional services maintenance dollars in both our Cave Creek and our Desert Hills operational budgets.
Are there prices? I mean, what we're doing, we're setting an upper limit for what they can charge in the next 3 years, which is 150, which would be $50,000 a year. And that includes their labor and their parts. Is there prices set in stone for parts and that type of stuff? Or are we going to be chipping away at this 100.5 with the 11% inflation that's in Maricopa County right now?
Yeah, the base contract with the city of Tempe is that they are allowed to do a specific markup, and I can't remember what that is, on top of parts. And then I think every 2 years they can renegotiate and go back to Tempe and ask for an increase, and Tempe has to authorize that. So if Tempe authorizes it, then that would come. through us.
Then
If
we're
they don't,
stuck with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Councilman Sova.
Would I be correct in assuming that if we didn't approve this and we said you and your staff can go out and inspect all these hydrants and repair them and get the parts, would cost more than 50,000 a year?
Yes.
So
They have the
so-
specific tools and they have the staff to go do this.
So we're actually saving money by contracting it out than by doing it in-house.
I would agree with that statement. Yeah, they're very efficient at what they do. They have their trucks are actually equipped to do this type of work very efficiently, so they can take them all apart in the field and reassemble them in the field, where we don't even have that equipment. So we have to actually not only get staff, but we actually get the equipment to do this work efficiently and effectively.
Thank you.
Reg?
Mayor, any municipality that I've lived in, it was the fire department that went out and tested fire hydrants. Okay? I'm just curious, in the negotiations with Daisy Mountain, was that ever brought up that fire department ought to go out and check a fire hydrant rather than town utilities?
Well, you weren't here when the captain said that firemen break things. When we were talking about that contract.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's kind of an offline time. We have had damage to lines and stuff when firefighters were actually doing the testing in the Carefree section, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the town actually has had a contract with Carefree to have rural Metro go out and do the inspections. We actually have our staff mirroring them because they have done things like open and close the hydrants too fast and actually surge the system and break things.
They break them.
Hard to believe, but okay.
Well, the pressures. Oh, I see your pen sticking up.
That's my signal.
Bob, yeah, it's your turn.
Would it be fair to say that in the past, when town forces did this, I think it's a perfect contracting because it's a fixed scope and specialist, that the fire hydrants didn't work in this town. Many dozens were out of service or broken. Is that correct? And now they all work, last report you had.
Yeah, there's one that's out of service right now. And there's a few that are out of service because they're not physically connected to lines that we can provide service to. Continental Ranch has 5, and then there's the lines, the ones that go up to Cahaba Springs. But yeah, every year we get a new batch. That's why I want to get them out to inspect before the fire season really kicks off in earnest. Make sure that we identify any ones that have deficiencies, critical deficiencies that we need to exercise. Yeah, I think it came down to staff resources. These hydrants take time to go, and between keeping the mapping up and then just keeping the assets maintained takes time and staff resources. And I don't think they had the staff resources to it in the past. So this has been a great example of using a contractor for a specific scope, as you indicated, that can get this done efficiently and effectively for us, for the town.
I'll make the motion.
There's public comment on this. I see David leaning on the table back there. Did he fill one out on this?
No.
No. Okay.
Motion to approve a cooperative purchase agreement with the city of Tempe for services with Hydra Contracting LLC for fire hydrant maintenance, inspections, and parts for an amount up to $150,000.
Second.
All right. Definitely financial on this.
Councilmember Silva,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember Monachino,
Reg. Oh, sorry.
I heard her. Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Councilmember Ray,
Yes.
Mayor Bunch.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. That brings us to the end of the festivities this evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.